Hey everyone, it's the return of Saturdays are for the boy. Um, my journey into talking about things that I don't know but like, which is college football. Um, I'm about as amateur an analyst as you will ever see, uh, but it's something that I really am passionate about. So I like to put my words on screen for all of you. Um, that probably means that you will disagree with a lot of what I say. It probably means that um, I sound almost ill-informed sometimes, but I'm more a fan than anything else. So I'm going to start like I always do with a couple of news tidbits. Um, I'm going to start with the news of Tommy Stevens transferring from Penn State. Um, he has been the heir apparent to Trace McSorley for 3 years now, 4 years now. He is a fifth year senior who's decided enough is enough. I'm transferring, getting a chance to play. Um, he was beaten out essentially, it sounds like, by Sean Clifford, who's a sophomore, so somebody a couple years younger than him. And this can't come as too much as a surprise. Stevens, for the past year and a half, has had on and off nagging foot injuries, which has allowed Sean Clifford to essentially take backup reps and this spring first team reps, both in the spring and in bowl practices. So, not too surprised by this news. Hopefully, Stevens lands on his feet, and it really is because Clifford is that much better than Stevens for Penn State fans. The other quarterback transfer news is Matthew Baldwin transferring from Ohio State. Um, this is interesting because it essentially means Justin Fields is the guy. He did not look good in their spring game, but I mentioned last week spring games, you can't take really any stock into it. I don't know if this means Fields looks that great in practice, that he's blowing everyone away. I find it very interesting that Ohio State fans have already completely moved on from Dwayne Haskins and somehow think that Fields could be and will be even better. Even though Haskins just had the best season in Ohio State quarterbacking history, better than Troy Smith's Heisman winning campaign of 06. So all their eggs are in that basket. And for Ohio State, Georgia didn't have Fields throw the ball hardly any in his time there. So for their sake, hopefully that was by design there, and not because he is an average passer and just a good athlete. Although they've had success with that with Terrell Pryor and such in the past. So, interesting news. Interesting news. We will see what happens with Justin Fields. I'm fascinated by him because he seems like a quarterback who's already decided essentially he's going pro after his junior year. I don't see any other reason why he transfers from Georgia when he would have been the starter as soon as Jake Fromm left. So, unless it was because he didn't want to sit for 2 to 3 years because he wants to just do 3 and out, I don't know. But he's a fascinating case study to see how much stock people will take in transfer quarterbacks moving forward. This was the first year where we really saw that merry-go-round, almost like a coaching carousel, between him and Tate Martell and a couple others. We will really see how much transfer quarterbacks impact and whether that changes the market in the future. All right. I'm on to my last position group for these top 5 countdowns that I've been doing. This is the secondary, and like I mentioned at the top, I am very much an amateur at this. I don't know a ton. This one is a lot of just single standalone players or 1 or 2 players. I feel like there are a lot of guys lost to the draft this year. Maybe that's just me. But there isn't as much entire starting units or 3 guys coming back that I really look at and say, yeah, they're going to be a difference maker. I'm sure that there are going to be excellent secondaries out there, but yeah, here are my top 5. At number 5, I'm going to start with, I believe, my first group of 5 group, and that's Southern Miss, the Golden Eagles. They've got they've got a couple cornerbacks who are absolutely shut down. And in Conference USA, that could play a big role because there are a few teams that like to chuck it around in that league. So Kyle Hembry and Ty Williams are the names of those two guys, and they could be some shutdown corners that could help Southern Miss move forward and get better. And we will see what happens with them. At number 4, I've got Texas. Now Texas loses a lot across the board. People are really, really high on them because of how they ended last year and the fact they've got Sam Ehlinger returning, but they lose a ton. One of the players they don't lose is Caden Stearns, who might be the best. He will, in my opinion, he's going to be an All-American safety. He is a disruptor. He's everything you want in a modern-day safety. He can cover. He can defend the run. He can get in people's way. He can hit hard. I love watching this kid play. He's only a sophomore. It's going to be a lot of fun the next 2 years to watch. And just because of him, I have Texas at number 4. Like I said, this one has a little bit more almost individual players rather than whole units bringing up those units. So because of Caden Stearns, I have Texas at number 4. Number 3, I have Alabama. It's interesting. Nick Saban has been and was a secondary guy his entire coaching career. And people feel like the Crimson Tide secondaries have been almost hit or miss over the past 5-6 years, 7 or 8 years even. I think it's going to be a hit this year. Patrick Surtain, the second, and Trayvon Diggs, those two lead this secondary. It's going to be a lot better than last year's. Xavier McKinney is also in this secondary, guy with a lot of playing time and a lot of experience. They missed Minkah Fitzpatrick a ton last year. I think this year they are actually able to compensate for those guys' losses, and we will see another shutdown Crimson Tide secondary. At number 2, I have the Clemson Tigers. And this is because of their safeties as well. Kayvon Wallace and Tanner Muse as a safety pairing might be the best in the country. Tanner Muse, smart, can play the run really well. Kayvon Wallace, lanky guy, can move quick, speedy coverage. They complement each other really well. And I think they'll rely on them quite a bit this year. They need leaders on this defense. Those are going to be your 2 leaders, the 2 safeties, which I think will help Clemson's front 7, especially front 4, as they transition to pretty much an entirely new group. I really, really love the Clemson safeties. I've got them at number 2. And my top defensive backs secondary unit, this is the only one that I knew going in was going to be at the top and in my top 5. These guys are far and away, I think, the best secondary in the country, and that's the LSU Tigers. Grant Delpit is the best safety in the country, and I'm not sure it's that close. Derek Stingley is the true freshman wonder kid. He's going to be starting from day one. A lot of people think he might be the best cornerback recruit of all time. He seems to be showing that potential in their practices and spring games. So I expect him to not miss a beat. And then Christian Fulton is still there as well. So you got 3 guys who I think could be absolutely locked down, shut down guys back there, with Grant Delpit leading the way as the best defensive back in the entire country, whether it's safety or cornerback. The LSU Tigers, good luck throwing on them this year. That might help them a little bit more this year against Alabama. So we will see. I'm really excited to watch that LSU secondary. By far the best in the country. Anyways, thank you so much for listening and watching. If you somehow find it and stumble across this, thank you. You know, I'm not doing this really for anyone but myself, but if you find it and want to take a look and take a listen and take a watch, be my guest. Thanks so much for listening to me. This has been Saturdays Are For the Boy.